Forensic science is the use of scientific methods or expertise to investigate crime or examine evidence that might be presented in a court of law. Forensic scientists examine and analyze evidence from crime scenes and elsewhere to develop findings that can assist in the investigation and prosecution of perpetrators of crime or absolve an innocent person from suspicion. The earliest application of forensic science dates back to the ancient Greek and Roman societies. Those civilizations made significant contributions to the field of medicine, especially pharmacology. The first official recorded autopsy was performed way back in 44 BC. This was when a Roman physician, Antisus, examined the slain body of Roman politician and general Julius Caesar. The autopsy revealed that though he was stabbed 23 times, his death actually resulted from one fatal wound through the chest.
Et tu, Brute!
In 1247, during the Song dynasty in China, Song Shi wrote the book Zai Wan Lu, which is the washing away of wrongs. This book became the earliest use of recorded forensic evidence. It was the first guide for pathology, which is the study of disease and injury, and was the first form of literature to help determine the cause of death of a victim. The book explained how to distinguish an accidental death from a murder by examining the weapon used to cause death. It threw light upon important subjects such as how to preserve evidence during the examination process, how to make an antiseptic, how to extract a hidden injury from dead bodies and bones, how to calculate the time of death based on weather and insects, and how to wash a body for examination. He combined many historical cases of forensic science with his own experiences and wrote the book with an eye to avoiding injustice. One of these historical cases talks about the basic methods used to crack a murder case. First, the investigator tested various blades on an animal carcass and compared the wound to the actual one. This helped him deduce that the weapon used to commit murder was a sickle. Next, he asked every resident of the crime area to bring their sickles to one location. Eventually, the murderer confessed when the smell of blood caused flies to gather on his sickle. The book also provided methods and logic to examine if the death resulted from suicide, accident, or murder. In 16th century Europe, medical practitioners in army and university settings began to gather information on the cause and manner of death. This caused more physical and recorded books about forensics to appear. A French army surgeon named systematically studied the effect of violent death on internal organs, and two Italian surgeons named laid the foundation of modern pathology by studying changes that occurred in the structure of the body as the result of disease. In the 18th century, criminal investigation became more evidence-based. The use of torture to force confessions was banned, and belief in witchcraft and other powers of the occult largely ceased to influence the court's decisions. One example of English forensic science in individual legal proceedings demonstrates the increased use of logic and procedure in criminal investigations at the time. In 1784 in Lancaster, John Toms was tried and convicted for murdering Edward Coleshaw with a pistol. When the dead body of Coleshaw was examined, a pistol wad found in his head wound matched perfectly with a torn newspaper found in Tom's pocket, leading to the conviction. The technique of fingerprint analysis to link incidents to suspects was a major breakthrough in the forensic landscape in 1880. Fingerprint analysis resulted from the groundbreaking theory established by Henry Flodds and William James Herschel from the uniqueness of fingerprints. This study received huge support from experts all over the world and was later accepted as crucial evidence in the legal system. Now the Henry classification system is the standard for criminal fingerprint analysis techniques worldwide. The use of fingerprints proved useful because in 1892, Francesca Rojas was found in her house with neck injuries, while her two sons were found dead with their throats cut. Rojas accused a neighbor, but despite brutal interrogation, the neighbor did not confess to the crimes. Inspector Alvarez went to the scene and found a bloody thumb mark on the door. When it was compared with Rojas' prints, it was found to be identical with her right thumb. She then confessed to the murder of her sons. The history of DNA used in forensics began in 1984 when British geneticist Sir Alec Jeffreys discovered that DNA strands are unique enough to be linked to their owners. The first application of DNA profiles was used by Jeffreys in a double murder mystery in the small English town of Narborough. In 1885, a 15-year-old schoolgirl by the name of Lydia Mann was raped and murdered in Carlton Hayes Psychiatric Hospital. The police did not find a suspect but were able to obtain a DNA sample. In 1986, Dawn Ashworth, 15 years old, was also raped and strangled in the nearby village of Enderby. Jeffreys was brought into the case to analyze the DNA samples. He confirmed that the DNA profiles were identical for the two murdered DNA samples. To find the perpetrator, DNA samples from the entire male population, which is more than 4,008 aged from 17 to 34 of the town, were collected. They all were compared to the DNA samples from the crime. A friend of Colin Pitchfork was heard saying that he had given his sample to the police, claiming to be Colin, to cover for him. Then Colin Pitchfork was arrested in 1987, and it was found that his DNA profile matched the DNA samples from the murder. Because of this case, DNA databases were developed. There are national and international databases, as well as some in European countries. These searchable databases are used to match crime scene DNA profiles to those who are already in a database. Probably the most well-known, but also the least reliable, is the polygraph test, also known as the lie detector test. I'm sure we've all seen at least one of the many videos there are on YouTube about YouTubers taking polygraphs for views and money. The polygraph measures and records a person's psychological responses while they answer questions to see if the person is lying or not. The test uses sensors attached to the person to record signals such as heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate. The earliest use to the polygraph test was the examination of saliva, mouth, and tongue of a suspect to deduce if innocent or guilty. For example, in ancient India, the suspect's mouth was filled with some dried rice, and they were asked to spit it out. The principle used for these methods was that a guilty person would produce less saliva. So, if the rice got stuck in their mouths, they were pronounced guilty. A more modern version of the polygraph test was created in 1921 by a California-based policeman and psychologist John A. Larson. Polygraphs are 90% of the time reliable, but they can be easily manipulated and can produce false positives and false negatives because psychological responses like heart rate, blood pressure, and respiration can be affected by factors other than deception, such as anxiety, fear, and medications. In California, the general rule is that polygraph test results are not admissible as evidence in criminal cases. The only exception to this rule is if the prosecution and the defense agree to admit the evidence to be shown to the judge or jury. Polygraphs can be inaccurate. And an example of this is the Green River Killer case.
You're not lying to me. Yes, you are. You're a serial killer. That's what serial killers do.
Gary Leon Ridgway was a suspect in the killing of 4 women and was given a polygraph, which he unfortunately passed. Ridgway was then dropped as a suspect and then went on to kill another 44 women until he was caught and convicted. The failure of this polygraph cost 44 women their lives. Another example of the inaccuracy of the polygraph is the angel of death, Charles Cullen. Charles Cullen worked as a nurse and murdered as many as 40 people by giving them lethal injections. After his first victim died, he was considered a suspect and was asked to take a polygraph. He passed the polygraph and was dropped as a suspect and went on to kill at least another 39 people until he was caught and convicted. In this case, the failure of the polygraph cost 39 people their lives.
This happens quite a lot with serial killers because they do not have a conscience. The fact that they've been asked awkward questions, it doesn't even raise their blood pressure one bit. Their heartbeats don't move. They don't even sweat like anybody else would when they're lying.
Because of the use of forensics, we are able to crack cases easily and with more reliability. When lives are lost or affected because of the selfishness or psychotic reasons of another, it is important for the victim and the victim's family to receive justice. Solving cases can help victims and their families have a better peace of mind, honor their memory, and prevent future cycles of violence.